The alarms blared across the Martian luxury dome as the woman stepped out of the shadows. Her spacesuit was patched and faded, stained with the red dust of a dying Earth. The guards didn't notice her at first. Why would they? To them, she was just another ghost from a planet everyone had forgotten. But she hadn't forgotten. 20 years ago, the man who owned this glittering city on Mars had promised her forever. Back then, they stood on the rooftop of their Manhattan penthouse, watching Earth's skies darken with pollution. "We'll build a new world," he'd said, squeezing her hand. A legacy. But when doctors said she could never give him children, he'd tossed her aside like broken machinery. "No heirs, no future," he'd hissed, before boarding his private shuttle to Mars. She'd watched it vanish into the smoke, her hands pressed against the clinic's glass window. Now, she stood in the heart of his new world, her boots crunching over imported white marble. The dome's artificial sky shimmered gold, holographic birds singing lies about paradise. She pulled a cracked data chip from her pocket, the last relic of the lab she'd found buried under Earth's ruins. The lab he had built, and abandoned. "Halt!" A guard finally spotted her, his laser rifle glowing. "No beggars allowed in," she activated the chip. A hologram exploded into the air, a little girl, no older than 5, with eyes that glowed like twin stars. The guard froze. Across the dome, screens flickered as the hologram hijacked every system. The girl's voice echoed, soft but clear. "Father, why did you leave us?" In his crystal tower, the billionaire dropped his wineglass. The liquid splattered like blood across his perfect white floors. He stumbled to the window, his face pale. "Impossible." The woman looked up, her gaze locking onto his. She smiled. For the first time in decades, he felt fear. The billionaire's mornings always began the same way. A swarm of sleek, silver drones buzzed into his bedroom at exactly 6 a.m. One poured freshly brewed coffee into a cup made of Martian gemstone. Another smoothed anti-aging serums onto his face. The third adjusted the temperature of the dome to a perfect 22 degrees Celsius, just as he liked it. From his tower, he could see the entire colony, a sprawling city of glass and neon, where every tree, every breeze, every sunrise was manufactured by his machines. His legacy. But today, the drones froze. The coffee spilled. "System error," chimed a robotic voice. The holographic sky flickered, the golden light replaced by the pale, glowing face of the child from the data chip. Her starry eyes stared at him, unblinking. "Delete the intrusion," the billionaire barked, slamming his fist on a control panel. "Now!" The drones whirred back to life, scrubbing the hologram away. But the damage was done. His hands shook as he stormed to the balcony, where a crowd had gathered in the plaza below. They were pointing at the sky, murmuring. A few snapped photos. The woman stood at the center of it all, her head held high, the data chip glowing in her palm like a weapon. "You," he whispered, his throat tight. He hadn't seen her in 20 years, but he'd recognized that stubborn tilt of her chin anywhere. Back on Earth, she'd worn silk and diamonds. Now, her hair was streaked with gray, her face lined with scars from solar storms. Yet she stood taller than he remembered. "Sir." A guard rushed onto the balcony, helmet askew. "The intruder, she's demanding to speak to you. Publicly. She says if you refuse, she'll release the rest of the data to the colonies." The billionaire's pulse roared in his ears. The rest of the data. How much did she know? The plaza fell silent as he descended, flanked by guards. The colonists parted, their faces a mix of curiosity and fear. He designed this city to be flawless, but today, he noticed cracks, a flickering streetlight, a weed pushing through the artificial soil. The woman stood waiting, her gaze steady. "You shouldn't have come here," he said, loud enough for the crowd to hear. Earth sickness has addled your mind. She laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You think I'm here for revenge? No. I'm here to give you what you always wanted. She raised the chip. An heir. The hologram erupted again. This time, it showed medical records. DNA scans. Dates. The crowd gasped. You said I was infertile, she said, her voice cracking. But the truth is, it was you. A genetic flaw, passed down for generations. Your family knew. They paid doctors to lie. The billionaire's mask slipped. Lies, he spat, but the hologram zoomed in on a document, his grandfather's name, a secret research fund, the words, eradicate defect. The woman stepped closer. You didn't just abandon me. You abandoned her. The hologram shifted to a video, a lab on Earth, hidden beneath radioactive ruins. Tubes and pods lined the walls. And in one pod, a child. Sleeping. Her skin faintly glowing. You thought the lab was destroyed when you fled Earth, the woman said. But I found it. I found her. The crowd erupted. A man shouted, "What's in those pods?" A woman clutched her child, crying, "Is this why the colony's babies are getting sick?" The billionaire's guards raised their rifles, but it was too late. The crowd pressed forward, angry, confused. He backed away, his perfect hair falling into his eyes. Shut her down, he ordered. Shut it all down. The woman didn't flinch. You tried to play God, she said, her voice rising above the chaos. But your perfect heirs aren't in those pods. They're here. She pointed to the crowd. And they're dying because of you. A rock flew from the crowd, smashing a nearby hologram ad. Then another. The drones swooped in, zapping people with stun beams. The billionaire turned to flee, but not before locking eyes with the woman one last time. Her lips moved, silent but clear. This is just the beginning. The riot spread like wildfire. Colonists smashed holographic billboards of the billionaire's smiling face. Drones lay sparking in the streets, their wings torn off. In the chaos, the woman slipped away, guided by a hooded figure who pulled her into a narrow alley. Quickly, the stranger said, their voice muffled by a scarf. They'll shoot you on sight now. She followed, clutching the data chip. The stranger led her through underground tunnels, damp, dark passages that smelled of rust and recycled air. The billionaire's city was beautiful on the surface, but beneath? A tangle of broken pipes and forgotten people. They emerged into a hidden room lit by flickering bulbs. A small group huddled there, colonists in patched jumpsuits, their faces gaunt. One held a child in her arms. The child's eyes glowed faintly, like embers. You're safe here, for now, the stranger said, lowering their scarf. It was a woman, her face scarred by acid rain. We've been watching you. We knew he was lying. The wife stared at the child. What's wrong with her eyes? Nothing's wrong, the mother snapped, holding the girl closer. She was born this way. After the labs. The labs. The wife's mind flashed back to Earth. After the billionaire left her, she'd wandered the ruins, surviving on ration packs and rage. One day, she'd stumbled into a collapsed building, a place marked biohazard. Inside, she'd found pods. Dozens of them, cracked and covered in dust. And files. So many files. Project, New Dawn. Objective, genetic optimization of human subjects. Status, terminated. But someone had scratched the word terminated and written hidden in blood-red ink. The rebels let her stay. They called themselves Dustborn, people the billionaire's drones had tossed aside when they got sick or spoke too loudly. The wife learned their stories. A farmer whose crops failed because the soil was poisoned. A mechanic who'd found strange chips implanted in the colony's water filters. And the children, always the children. The mute girl followed the wife everywhere. She couldn't speak, but her eyes said enough. One night, as the wife sorted through the data chips files, the girl tugged her sleeve. She pointed to a hologram of the lab on Earth, then to herself. "You were there," the wife whispered. The girl nodded. She drew in the dust, a pod, a needle, a man in a white coat. The billionaire's face. The wife's blood turned cold. "He experimented on you." The girl hugged her, trembling. The next morning, the rebels gathered. "We need to show the colonies the truth," the wife said. "Not just about him, about the labs. About what he's doing to children." A rebel scoffed. "And how?" "His drones block all signals." The wife held up the data chip. "This can hack into the Central Tower's broadcast system. But we'll need to get inside." The room fell silent. The tower was the billionaire's fortress, guarded by lasers, drones, and soldiers who'd shoot first. The mute girl stepped forward. She placed a small hand on the hologram projector. It flickered, then displayed a map of the tower's ventilation system. "How did she?" a rebel muttered. The girl pointed to her head, then to the hologram. "She's been there," the wife realized. "In the tower." The rebels exchanged glances. The scarred woman nodded. "We go tonight." They moved like shadows. The wife, the girl, and 3 rebels crawled through a service tunnel that reeked of chemicals. The girl led the way, her glowing eyes cutting through the dark. "Here," she mouthed, stopping at a grate. Beyond it was a lab, sterile white walls, glowing screens, and rows of pods just like the ones on Earth. Inside the pods floated children, their bodies connected to tubes. The wife gagged. "He's still doing it," the rebels filmed everything. The pods. The screens showing DNA sequences. A logbook with the billionaire's signature, batch 47 to 80% viability. "Proceed." Suddenly, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. "They've seen us," a rebel yelled. Guards stormed in, laser rifles blazing. The wife grabbed the girl and ran, the data chip burning in her pocket. They dodged through hallways, the rebels covering them. One fell, then another. A guard cornered them. "Drop the chip," he ordered. The wife shielded the girl. "Never." The guard raised his rifle, then froze. His feet left the ground. He floated, choking, as if invisible hands squeezed his throat. The wife stared. The girl's eyes blazed like supernovas, her small hand outstretched. With a flick of her wrist, the girl hurled the guard into a wall. He crumpled, unconscious. You can control things," the wife breathed. The girl nodded, exhausted. They escaped, barely. Back in the hideout, the rebels uploaded the footage to the chip. "When we broadcast this," the scarred woman said, "the whole galaxy will see his crimes." But the wife's hands shook as she held the girl. The child's nose was bleeding, her glowing eyes dim. "What did he do to you?" The girl touched her chest, then the wife's. A bond deeper than words. Outside, engines roared. The billionaire's voice boomed from drones overhead. "Surrender the intruders, or this sector will be purged." The rebels armed themselves with pipes and stolen lasers. The wife looked at the girl, then at the chip. "We need to split up. Draw their fire. Get this to the tower." The scarred woman nodded. "You take the east tunnel. We'll cover you." The wife and the girl ran again. Behind them, explosions shook the ground. The east tunnel was collapsing. Rocks clattered down as the wife dragged the girl forward, their breaths ragged. Behind them, the roar of drones grew louder. Red laser beams sliced through the dust, barely missing their heels. Faster, the wife urged, though her legs burned. The girl's small hand was clammy in hers, her glowing eyes flickering like a dying bulb. Ahead, the tunnel split. Left or right? The wife hesitated, but the girl tugged her toward the right, a narrow path littered with broken machinery. They squeezed through just as a boulder crashed behind them, sealing the left tunnel. The girl coughed, blood speckling her lips. "You're pushing yourself too hard," the wife whispered, wiping the girl's face with her sleeve. "You need to rest." The girl shook her head fiercely. She pointed ahead, where a dim blue light glowed. The broadcast tower. The billionaire's voice echoed through the tunnels again, smug and cold. "You think you've won? Look up." The wife froze. Above them, the ceiling shuddered. Dust rained down as the sound of drilling machines grew closer. "He's digging us out," she muttered. "Or burying us alive." The girl grabbed a rusted pipe from the ground and drew a shaky circle in the dirt. Inside it, she sketched a stick figure with starry eyes, then pointed to herself. "You came from here?" the wife asked. "From under the tower?" The girl nodded. She mimed crawling, then gestured to the walls around them. "Of course." The tower's foundations were riddled with old mining shafts, abandoned, unguarded. "A back door." "Lead the way," the wife said. The girl's memory was flawless. She guided them through crumbling passages, past pits of stagnant water, and around dormant security bots. Twice, they hid in shadows as patrols marched past, their boots thudding. Almost there, the wife whispered, spotting a metal door ahead. A faded sign read, "Broadcast Control, Restricted Access." The girl reached for the door panel, but the wife stopped her. "Wait. It'll need a code, or a fingerprint." The girl tilted her head, then placed her palm on the scanner. It beeped red. "Access denied." The wife's heart sank, until the girl's eyes flared bright. The scanner sparked, smoked, and hissed open. "You're full of surprises," the wife said, half smiling. Inside, the control room was eerily quiet. Screens lined the walls, showing the billionaire's propaganda, happy colonists, thriving farms, promises of a perfect future. The wife approached the main console, slotting the data chip into a port. "Ready?" she asked the girl. The child nodded, her small frame trembling. The broadcast began with static. Across the colony, screens flickered to life in homes, streets, and even the billionaire's tower. The wife's face appeared, gaunt but determined. Beside her stood the girl, her glowing eyes impossible to ignore. "People of Mars," the wife began, her voice steady. "You've been lied to. The man who calls himself your leader is a coward. A fraud." The footage rolled, the hidden lab, the pods, the children with tubes in their veins. The logbook with the billionaire's handwriting. Batch 47 to 80% viability. Proceed. Colonists gasped. A mother screamed, clutching her child. A farmer smashed his drone controller. "He experimented on Earth's children first," the wife said, tears in her eyes. "When that failed, he came here. To your children. All because he's terrified of being forgotten." The screen split, showing the billionaire in his tower, face twisted with rage. "Don't listen to her. She's a lunatic. A terrorist." The wife stepped closer to the camera. "Then explain this." The girl lifted her hand. A drone hovering nearby shuddered, then crumpled into a ball of metal like paper. The crowd gasped. "Your perfect leader created something he can't control," the wife said. "A new kind of human. Stronger. Kinder. Better." The billionaire slammed his fist on the console. Cut the feed. Now. But no one obeyed. His guards hesitated, watching the broadcast on their wrist screens. In the control room, alarms blared. "They're coming," the wife said, yanking the chip free. The girl swayed, her nose bleeding again. The door exploded. Smoke filled the room as armed guards stormed in. The wife shielded the girl, but a guard grabbed her arm, wrenching the chip away. "Got it," he shouted. The girl snarled, a sound feral and raw. Her eyes blazed, and the guard screamed as his rifle melted in his hands. The chip clattered to the floor. "Run," the wife yelled, snatching it. They fled into the tunnels, but the guards gave chase. Lasers scorched the walls. The wife's shoulder burned as a shot grazed her. The girl suddenly stopped, turning to face the guards. Her small hands shook as she raised them. "No," the wife cried. "You'll hurt yourself." But the girl closed her eyes. The air crackled. And the tunnel collapsed. Rocks crashed down, sealing the guards behind a wall of rubble. The girl collapsed. The wife carried her, sobbing. "Stay with me. Please." The girl's breaths were shallow, her glow nearly gone. They stumbled into a cavern, the rebels' new hideout. The scarred woman rushed over. "What happened?" "She used her powers, too much," the wife said, laying the girl on a cot. The scarred woman checked the child's pulse. "She's alive. But she needs medical help. Real help." The wife clenched the data chip. "Then we end this. Tonight." Outside, shouts echoed. The colonists were rallying. The cavern hummed with tension. Colonists packed the hideout, farmers, mechanics, even a few defected guards. They'd brought weapons, rusty tools, stolen lasers, and anger sharp enough to cut through steel. The scarred woman stood on a crate, rallying them. "Tonight, we take back our colony. For our children. For justice." The crowd roared. But the wife barely heard them. She knelt beside the girl, pressing a wet cloth to her feverish forehead. The child's skin had turned ashen, her glowing eyes now dim slits. "Stay strong," the wife whispered. "We're so close." The girl's hand twitched, pointing weakly to the data chip. "I know," the wife said. "We'll finish what we started." A rebel rushed over. "The billionaire's troops are gathering near the tower. They're outnumbered, but he's got those things." "What things?" Before the rebel could answer, a scream echoed outside. The wife ran to the cavern entrance and froze. Drones. Hundreds of them. But these weren't the polished silver servants from the tower. They were jagged, mismatched machines, parts welded together from scrap, their claws dripping with acid. And at their center stood the billionaire's right-hand man, his face hidden behind a black helmet. "Surrender the child," the man's voice boasted through a speaker, "or we burn this place to dust." The wife turned to the scarred woman. "Get the girl deeper into the tunnels. I'll distract them. You'll die." "I've been dead for 20 years, the wife said. "Today, I live." She grabbed a laser pistol and stepped into the open. The drones buzzed toward her, acidic claws snapping. The colonists watched, breath held. "You want the child?" the wife shouted. "Come and take her." She fired. A drone exploded, splattering acid. Others swarmed. She ducked behind a boulder, shots ringing out as rebels joined the fight. But the drones kept coming. Underground, the scarred woman carried the girl through winding tunnels. The child's breath grew shallower, her small fingers clutching the woman's shirt. "Hang on," the woman muttered. "Just hang on." A shadow moved ahead. The scarred woman froze. "Who's there?" The billionaire's right-hand man stepped into the dim light. He removed his helmet, revealing a face the wife would have recognized, the same guard who tried to arrest her in the tower. But his eyes were different now. Haunted. "I'm not your enemy," he said, dropping his weapon. "I helped her escape the lab years ago. The girl, she's my failure. My shame." The scarred woman raised her pistol. "Explain. Fast." "The billionaire ordered me to terminate all failed experiments," the man said, voice breaking. "But I couldn't. I hid the girl in the Earth lab. I thought someone would save her." He looked at the child. "I didn't know she would." The girl stirred, reaching for him. "She remembers," the man said, tears in his eyes. "I tried to protect her. But the billionaire found out. He made me his puppet." The scarred woman lowered her gun. "Can you save her now?" "Maybe. There's a medical bay in the tower. But we'll never get past the drones." The girl coughed, her hand glowing faintly. She pointed upward. Above ground, the wife was cornered. Acid dripped from a drone's claw, sizzling near her boot. She closed her eyes, thinking of the girl's face. "I'm sorry I couldn't." A rumble shook the earth. The ground split. Rocks flew like bullets, smashing drones midair. The wife stared as the rubble lifted, hovering in a swirling vortex. And there, carried by the scarred woman and the defector, was the girl. Her eyes blazed brighter than ever, one hand raised, controlling the storm. "Impossible," the billionaire's man whispered. The wife sprinted to the girl. "You should be resting." The girl smiled weakly. With a flick of her wrist, she hurled the rubble at the remaining drones, crushing them to scrap. The crowd erupted in cheers. Even the billionaire's troops hesitated, lowering their weapons. The defector stepped forward, addressing the soldiers. "You've all seen the broadcast. You know what he's done. Stand with us, or stand with a monster." A soldier ripped off his helmet. "My brother was taken to the labs. I'm in." One by one, the troops switched sides. The wife lifted the girl into her arms. Time to end this. Together, the mob marched toward the tower. The billionaire's hologram flickered above, screaming threats, but no one listened. Inside the tower, the billionaire barricaded himself in his penthouse. "Activate the defense system," he ordered his AI. "System offline," the AI replied. "What? Why?" "Admin privileges revoked." "By her." The screen flashed. The wife's face appeared, the girl beside her. "You lose," she said simply. The tower doors exploded. The tower's doors crumbled like paper. The mob surged inside, their shouts echoing through the marble halls. The billionaire's paradise was collapsing, holographic gardens flickering, fountains running dry, and his prized portraits of himself torn from the walls. The wife carried the girl, her steps steady despite the chaos. The child's breathing was shallow, her glow fading in and out like a dying star. But her eyes stayed fixed on the penthouse elevator ahead. "Almost there," the wife whispered. The defector and the scarred woman cleared the path, disarming traps with the girl's flickering powers. When lasers shot from the ceiling, the girl raised a trembling hand, bending the beams harmlessly into the walls. "She can't keep this up," the defector warned. "She won't have to," the wife said. The penthouse doors hissed open. The billionaire stood at the window, his back to them, staring at the riots below. His suit was rumpled, his hair wild. The wife set the girl down gently, then stepped forward. "Look at me," she said. He turned. For a moment, his face softened, old memories flashing in his eyes. The wife he'd loved. The future he'd promised. Then his gaze fell on the girl, and his lip curled. "You brought that thing here?" The wife's voice was ice. "She's not a thing. She's your daughter. The room froze. The billionaire laughed, high and brittle. Liar. I have no children. The wife pulled a locket from her pocket, a relic from Earth. Inside was a photo of the two of them, young and smiling, and a strand of baby hair. She tossed it at his feet. You had scientists inject your DNA into the experiments. You wanted a perfect heir. But she's mine. Conceived naturally, before the doctors lied. Your own labs didn't realize she existed, until it was too late. The girl coughed, her small hand pressing to the glass floor. A hologram erupted, medical records from the Earth lab. A tiny heartbeat monitor. A newborn's cry echoing from the speakers. Subject 001, viable. Genetic match confirmed, 99.9% parental linkage. The billionaire staggered. No. I destroyed that data. You can't destroy the truth, the wife said. Outside, the colonists' chants grew louder. Burn the tower. Burn it all. The billionaire lunged for a control panel. If I can't have this world, no one will. He slammed his fist down, triggering an alarm. Self-destruct sequence activated. T-10 minutes. The scarred woman grabbed the wife's arm. We have to go. No, the wife said, staring at the billionaire. You owe her. Fix what you broke. He sneered. Or what? You'll kill me? The girl limped forward, her small frame trembling. She placed her palm on the window. Outside, Mars' barren plains stretched endlessly, red dust swirling. The colonists huddled below, their faces lit by fire. The girl closed her eyes. A pulse of light exploded from her hand, rippling across the dome. The cracked glass healed. The dead soil outside sprouted green. The air smelled suddenly of rain. What is this? The billionaire whispered. A new beginning, the wife said. One you'll never control. The defector rushed in, breathless. The self-destruct, we can't stop it. The core's overheating. The girl turned to the billionaire, her eyes pleading. You want me to help? He spat. After what you've done? The wife stepped between them. You did this to yourself. To her. Now choose, die a monster, or live as a man. The billionaire's hands shook. For the first time in his life, he had no words. The girl collapsed. Do something, the wife screamed. He hesitated, then yanked open a floor panel, revealing wires and circuits. The core's manual override. I need tools. The scarred woman tossed him a laser cutter. He worked frantically, sweat dripping, as the timer ticked down. 5 minutes. Why are you helping us? The wife demanded. Not for you, he muttered. For her. The girl's eyes met his. Something unspoken passed between them, regret? Recognition? 3 minutes. Got it. The billionaire ripped out a smoking fuse. The alarms died. Silence fell. The wife scooped up the girl, tears streaming. You did it. It's over. But the child's glow was gone. The mob burst into the penthouse. The billionaire raised his hands, defeated. Do what you want with me. The scarred woman stepped forward. The colonies will decide your fate. As guards dragged him away, he glanced back at the wife and the girl. Is she? The wife held the child tighter. She's free. The colony fell quiet. The riots had stopped, the fires smothered by the girl's last burst of power. Now, the air smelled of damp soil and growing things, strange and sweet on a planet that had never known rain. The wife carried the girl to a makeshift medical tent, her arms trembling with every step. The defector had rigged a bed from old cargo crates. We've got oxygen, basic fluids, but she needs more, he said, adjusting a frayed 4-line. Her body's shutting down. The wife brushed the girl's hair, matted with sweat. She's stronger than she looks. But the child's chest barely rose. Her skin, once glowing like moonlight, was dull as ash. Outside, the colonists worked. They hauled debris, repaired water filters, and planted seeds in the newly fertile soil. The scarred woman moved among them, directing crews with a broken tablet. Focus on the shelters first. Kids and elders need warmth. A farmer approached her, holding a handful of green sprouts. Look. These grew overnight. Never seen anything like it on Mars. The scarred woman smiled faintly. Maybe the girl's not done with us yet. In the tent, the wife dozed fitfully, her head resting on the girl's cot. A hand touched her shoulder. Come, the defector said. They're deciding his fate. The billionaire sat in a steel cage at the center of the plaza, his suit torn, his face hollow. Colonists hurled insults, and rocks. One struck his cheek, drawing blood. Enough, the scarred woman barked. We're not him. We vote. Now. Hands rose. Some voted for execution. Others for exile. A few whispered, let him live. Let him see what we build without him. The wife stepped forward. All eyes turned to her. She's awake, the wife said softly. The girl lay still, but her eyes were open, dim, but alive. The wife knelt, cradling her hand. You saved us. Now let us save you. The girl pointed to the tent flap. Outside. They wrapped her in blankets and carried her into the plaza. The crowd parted, silent. Even the billionaire stared, his defiance crumbling. The girl's bare feet touched the soil. She wobbled, then knelt, pressing her palms to the ground. A faint pulse of light spread through the dirt. Flowers bloomed, red, gold, purple, their petals unfurling in seconds. A child laughed, chasing a butterfly. A butterfly. On Mars. The girl collapsed into the wife's arms, her breath shallow. Home, that night, the colonists gathered around a fire. The wife sat apart, the girl's head in her lap. The defector joined her. We voted, he said. He'll live. Work the fields like the rest of us. The wife nodded. Good. What about her? He glanced at the girl. She's changing the soil, the air, but it's killing her. The wife's tears fell onto the child's hair. She's giving us a chance. I won't waste it. Days passed. The girl woke in bursts, each time weaker. She'd touch the soil, summoning bursts of life, a tree here, a stream there, before fading again. The wife rarely slept, her world narrowed to the rhythm of the girl's breaths. One dawn, the girl stirred. Sing, she whispered. The wife blinked. I don't sing. The girl's fingers curled around hers. Please. And so, for the first time in decades, the wife sang. A lullaby from Earth, forgotten until now. Her voice cracked, but the girl smiled, her eyes closing. When the song ended, the child was gone. The girl was buried under a tree she'd created, a towering oak with silver leaves that shimmered like her eyes. The colonists piled stones around its base, each one carved with a word: hope, courage, legacy. The wife placed the last stone herself. It read, Mother. For weeks, the colony thrived. Streams bubbled where deserts had been. Crops grew faster, sweeter. Children laughed in fields of purple grass, chasing creatures that fluttered like Earth's butterflies but glowed like stars. The air hummed with life, as if the girl's energy lingered in every blade of grass. The billionaire worked the soil. Under the harsh Martian sun, he dug trenches and planted seeds alongside laborers he'd once ignored. No one spoke to him. No one needed to. His blisters and sunburn said enough. At night, he slept in a metal shack, staring at the oak tree through a cracked window. Sometimes, he swore he saw a flicker of light in its branches. The wife became a teacher. She gathered children under the oak, telling stories of Earth, not the ruined world she'd fled, but the one she remembered. We had oceans, she'd say, drawing waves in the dirt. Mountains that touched the clouds. And kindness. Never forget kindness. One day, a child asked, "Is the tree really her?" The wife smiled. "She's in the rain. The soil. The air you breathe. She's everywhere you look, if you know how to see." Years passed. The colony grew into a city named Nova Vita, New Life. Homes were built from reclaimed tower metal. Schools replaced labs. And every spring, the oak tree bloomed with flowers that glowed in the dark, guiding travelers home. The billionaire grew old. His hands, once soft, were calloused. His hair, once perfect, thinned to gray. One evening, as he watered saplings, a child approached, a boy with glowing green eyes. "Are you the man from the stories?" the boy asked. "The one who tried to break the world?" The billionaire hesitated. "Yes." "Why?" The question hung in the air. The billionaire looked at his dirty hands. "I wanted to be remembered." The boy plucked a glowing flower. "My mom says you are remembered. But not how you wanted." The billionaire said nothing. The boy ran off, laughing as the flower lit his path. The wife visited the oak often. One evening, as she sat beneath it, the defector joined her. His scars had softened with time. "You were right," he said. "About her. About everything." The wife touched the tree's bark. "She taught me that legacy isn't about power. It's about what you leave in people's hearts." A breeze stirred the leaves, scattering flecks of light like the girl's laughter. When the wife passed, the colonists mourned as one. They buried her beside the oak, her stone reading, "She loved unconditionally." That night, the tree's branches stretched wider, sheltering both graves. Flowers bloomed in a perfect circle around them, red, gold, and purple, just like the first ones. The billionaire outlived her by a year. He died quietly in his shack, a single glowing flower on his windowsill. His grave, dug by colonists, bore no name. Just dates. Epilogue: generations later, Nova Vita became a beacon. Ships from Earth landed there, crews marveling at forests that sang in the wind and rivers that sparkled like liquid starlight. Guides led pilgrims to the oak tree, now massive, its roots cradling 2 stones. "This is where it began," they'd say. "Where a child's love healed a broken world." Children pressed their ears to the trunk, claiming they heard whispers. Stories. Lessons. True strength is kindness. Legacy is not what you take, but what you give. Even the darkest night can end with dawn. And in the quiet moments, when the wind rustled the silver leaves, it almost sounded like a lullaby. The lesson: the universe tests us not with wealth or power, but with the choices we make when all seems lost. A legacy is not built in towers or titles, it grows in the hearts you nurture, the hope you plant, and the love you leave behind.